Hey, welcome back to Divorced Dads of America. I'm your host, Anthony Thompson, founder. Glad you're here, man. Today's different. It's Sunday. It's a Sunday table. And those of you know during the week, you get more systems and frameworks and some of the habits and those sorts of things. And on Sundays, I've started now to do something different because I believe that there's a lot of guys that are just looking for some type of spiritual frameworks and systems, some faith, some belief. Maybe church has been tough for you. I know it was tough for me, but you still want a biblical look. You still want to grow your spirit. And that's what today is. Today's just you and me, dude, sitting on the couch and just hanging out. The goal here is that this nudges you to get more time with the Lord, to open your Bible, to start reading and start praying. That's the goal. The goal, and for some of you, you're like, oh, I don't know about any of that. You know, the goal is for you to know Jesus for you, not in a grand scale, not in any scale. And I believe that my story and some of the stuff that I've gone through, I'll tell you straight from the jump. I mean, I worked in church for a long, long while, some of the biggest ministries, and I know that church can be very difficult, and I know there's tough things on it, but I also know that, man, there's been some great moments, some time with the Lord, and I know that these moments will propel you. So I want to give you this idea here from the jump. I'm sitting in my car in a parking lot. It was a final interview. It was a final interview. I had prepped for weeks. I had spent hours and hours in practice questions, research, mock calls, staying up late, building slides nobody but me would ever see. It was a high paying job. It was aligned, really aligned with what I wanted to do. It was during a season of my life when I was going through the divorce. I was building my business. I was trying to get cash flow. And so I came across this. It seemed like a perfect layup for everything that I wanted to do. I mean, I just was like, this is it. I felt it in my bones. I'm like, this is it. Then the call came and it was not you. And I remember going back to them saying, well, what in particular did I miss? I sat in that same car, different parking lot, but I had the same kind of emptiness. I was crushed. It was weeks of working gone for nothing. That's what I thought. I was like, holy smokes, like this was going to at least give me some breathing space. No very minimal cash flow coming in. I needed something. I was doing everything I could. Nothing was coming in. And I thought to myself, man, nailing this would really level me up. And now it was gone. What I didn't know while I was sitting there was that I wasn't holding nothing. I was holding a blueprint. Every hour I put into getting ready for a job that I didn't get, I didn't know that. I was about to use every bit of what I learned to build something that I couldn't have ever done on my own. This is what was so crazy. And I want to start to put some things and put some belief and put some faith into you. This is what the Sunday table is. It's a little bit of time. We pull up a chair, we sit at the table, we get honest with ourselves, we get honest with God. And I want to give you some of the unpacking of that story that I just told you, because that interview season for me was a couple of weeks, almost a month, and it was real prep and it was real hope. And I had never gone through something that intensive before, and it really had the revenue that I wanted. I was building it out. I was researching. I was, nothing at this level and scale I had ever seen before. And I had to prepare. I had to get ready for it. But when I didn't get it, I didn't just feel like this ridiculous sting and a gut punch. Gosh, it's like I read the whole thing wrong. It was like I got my hopes up and I was crushed again. And I'm like, how is this possible? Like, God, where the heck are you? And here's what I didn't see yet. Every hour of that prep didn't disappear when the door closed. It was the research, the clarity. These hours, they actually turned into the biggest launch I had for my business. Because what I had to learn for that job and that role was so aligned with my own personal business that within a month or so, I had the biggest month I ever had in my business simply by following all of the things that I had to learn for the job that I didn't get. I would have never had that opportunity. I remember going back in, and as it was happening and as I got laid off, I realized to myself, I have everything I need to try this on my own business because they were teaching me this for their business. So I literally had their blueprint to be able to do it in mine. And that's exactly what happened. It was one of my best months ever. It was my best month ever to date in the business. I didn't call it a miracle in the moment. I definitely chalked it up as a loss. It took time for me to figure out that it was a setup. And that's the pattern I want you to catch today. Sometimes what looks like the door closing is God handing you the blueprint through the back. And I want to start out with Peter on the water. And those of you who haven't read Matthew 14, you know the story. Here's Peter, a guy that just, he acts fast. He doesn't think. He just shoots and then figures out where he's shooting. Disciples are on this boat. They're terrified. And remember, these disciples are fishermen. They've seen storms before, but yet they're terrified. That should tell you the significance of the storm. This was not just like, oh, it's a little windy out. These were fishermen that was their job, and they were afraid. Jesus is walking toward them on the water. Peter says, Lord, if it's you, tell me to come. What a gangster. Like, he's all in. He's not even thinking. He's just, yeah, this looks rad. I want to check out this. There's always like one of your friends that's a little bit like Peter. They just jump and then they're like, oh. Jesus says one word, come. Peter didn't wait for the storm to calm down. He got out of the boat while the wind was still going. And that's the part that we skip. That's the part that I skip. We think faith means waiting until it's calm, until it's safe, until you feel ready. Peter walked in the middle of the storm, not after it. So here's the tension that I live with, that you live with, that the disciples lived with. We wrestle not against flesh and blood. Our spirit is willing, but our flesh is weak. That's the tension. Your spirit wants to, like Peter's spirit wants to get out of the boat. But your flesh looks at the waves and says, how is that possible? No freaking way. Peter was fine as long as he looked at Jesus. The second he looked at the wind, he started to sink. He didn't sink because he stepped out. He sank because he stopped looking at the one who called him out. That's called belief. It's not the absence of the wind. It's keeping your eyes on the voice that said, come, while the wind is still blowing. And this is a muscle, guys. This is something that the Lord is asking us to do. He's like, hey, come here. Let me talk to you for a second about what's going on. Let me talk to you about your money. Let me talk to you about your kids. Let me talk to you about your co-parenting. Let me talk to you about your ex. Let me talk to you about what's going on inside of you. It's a muscle. You don't get strong by staying in the boat. Most guys never get going because they never get clear on what they want. If you can't see it, you can't believe it, and you'll never take the action. So I'll give you an example. I have 2 next door neighbors that are firemen. Surprising. Good thing is I feel like I'm pretty safe. But I don't see myself as a fireman. I don't see myself as a fireman so much so that I think it's pretty safe to say I'm never going to be a fireman. I don't see myself as a fireman. I think it's cool. I think they're rad. I'm thankful for them. They're awesome. These guys are doing hard work, but I don't see myself as a fireman. And so the conclusion to that is I'm not going to be a fireman. I can't see it. So I can't believe it. So here's the question I want to give to you. Very simple question. It's probably one of the biggest reasons that dads aren't getting into the places where they need to get. And this is a spiritual thing, guys. You got to remember, our spirits are eternal. Scripture says we die, we go to heaven, our spirit goes out, our bodies stay here. You go to a funeral, you look at a body, that was the physical body of a spirit. It's now gone. We're living in this physical body, and it's short. Maybe 60 years, maybe 70 years, maybe 50 years, maybe 80 years. I don't know, but it's short compared to eternity. So we're having this physical experience. We're having a spiritual experience in a physical body, which is why we have the tension. Our spirit is willing, our flesh is weak. It's like, oh, how do I do this? How do I manage this? How do I get through this? And like I said, faith is a muscle. So the question is not what do you want, like a wish list. What can you see yourself becoming, doing, and building that you haven't started yet? That's such a big, powerful question. So many times when I'm sitting with dads in our groups, and like if you're just sitting there, like I have a lot of guys that are like, man, I really want to help other dads that are divorced. Awesome. Like I'm thrilled. I'm going to probably need thousands of guys as this grows and builds to help me coach and lead other guys. I'm going to need that at some point. So that's in there. Great. Get clear on it. What does it look like? What do you need to do? Right. So as you start to see and become, I've got another guy recently. When I asked him this question, he goes, man, I really actually want to build an orphanage in South America. Awesome. And then what happens is he has this thing in his heart that he sees, but then he goes and he looks at his bank balance. I don't know how I'm ever going to do that. It's like Peter goes and he sees Jesus to walk on water. His eyes are looking at the wind and the waves, and so he sinks. And so you can see this friction that happens in all of us, all of us of this area of faith. But I want to challenge you today where you're at, and I want you to think of this spiritually. Take away the wind and the waves. And what do you see in your heart? What do you want? What do you see yourself becoming, doing, building that maybe you haven't started yet? Maybe you have, but you're not consistent. Some of you say, well, I want to make more revenue. That's not specific. What are you doing? I was reminded recently, as a kid, I would draw. I'm terrible at drawing, but for some reason I remember this photo. It was a photo of a house that I drew, and it was a big house, and it was very similar to the house that we were kind of living in. It had this kind of big driveway, and we had somebody living at our house at the time as well, that my parents would frequently have people that didn't have places to live that they would come stay with us. And I had even built a house for that person on the property. And I looked at that, and it was a beautiful house. It was a beautiful property. I probably maybe about 10 at the time, 11, I don't know. And I can see that picture so vividly. That's what I was looking, I wanted to do that. I wanted to build that. But when we get to be adults, we stop doing that. We stop writing out and dreaming and drawing of the things that are in our heart. Why? I talked about this recently, but we have this treasure, and it's like sand. And if you imagine you're on a beach and you have this box of treasure and you set it down on the sand, but what happens over time is these winds and these storms come and sand piles up and sand piles up, and now your treasure is sunk. You can't see it anymore. It's deep. The sand has come over it. That's called life. That's called fear, anxiety, worries. You haven't focused on the treasure to take it, to build it, to grow it. And now you're like, I don't know what it is anymore. The treasure is still there, my friends. The goals, the dreams, the becoming, all those things are still there. And the Lord tells us exactly what to do. Ask, seek, and knock. Search for wisdom as if it's hidden treasure. Search for it with all your heart and all your might. In Proverbs. Are you? What if you did that today, dude? I get emotional thinking about it, but we do that with our kids. We say, draw something, dream big. Do it, man. Let's see. How big is this house? You know, how big is this thing that you want? And bicycles, and my daughter draws animals and lions. And what about us? What about you? What would you draw? What would you build? What would you become? What would you do? What does it look like? One guy's an orphanage. Another guy is coaching and helping other dads. Another guy wants to open this other business and get it off the ground and be able to take care of his kids. What if you actually wrote it down? What if you actually imagined it? What if you started to build that muscle of faith? Stop looking at the waves. Stop looking at the wind. What is Jesus talking to you about, man? And as you sit there and as you think about it and as you reflect on it, I ask dads to do this because sometimes, they'll take this out of context and they'll be like, oh, I should just jump like Peter. Well, I think there's also moments where we need to sit and be still and have peace about it. Do you have peace about it? Can you sit there and be still and imagine it and think about it and say, wow, yeah, that would be awesome. I have peace about that. I'd really like to do that. That's another big step that you have to do. Something else that I talk with dads about this as they build it out. I say, well, how do I know? How do I know when to move and when to not? How do I know when to go and when to stay? And I get it. There's a lot of times there's never a right answer. But I do believe having peace about it as you're actually sitting with the Lord and imagining it. Do you have peace about it? Do you see that you can do that? And then I do another thing. And the book of Judges is a story about Gideon. And Gideon was a very, very scared individual. The angel comes to him and says, oh, mighty man of valor. And Gideon's like, what? Who? Me? No, bro, wrong guy. I am not the guy. And the angel's like, nope, you're the guy. And so they have this, they have a little bit of a communication and progression where some things happen. And Gideon's still like, I'm not sure if I'm the guy. And so he says, Lord, and he gives a test to the Lord, says, hey, if you make this wool wet in the morning, I know it's you. And he says, well, if you make it dry in the morning, I know it's you, right? So he has these little tests. And sometimes I think we need those tests as well. And what I suggest with dads that are in these phases is, what if you started small? What is one thing that you could do to move you toward that goal? What would that look like? And test and see what happens. See, does it make you come alive? Does it open up new opportunities for you? Sometimes you don't need a huge capital investment to do something. You just need to do something small to do it. And let me give an example. Right around COVID, I had a very, very difficult moment in my life. I was working for Hillsong in this big ministry, and and then COVID is happening, but I was also trying to make additional money. We were living in Orange County, and it's very expensive, and working for a nonprofit is not a high-paying job. So I was trading, and I had coaches trading and doing those things. And during COVID, in the blink of an eye, money was evaporated, gone, not coming back. I'm talking closed account, margin called, gone. I was distraught. I was devastated. This was everything that I was going to use to build our life, to build something for our family. I loved what I was doing. I loved helping people, but it wasn't enough revenue for us to live in Orange County. It just wasn't. I was distraught. And I remember in that moment, I had this thing in my heart that was about writing, and I'd wanted to write, and I didn't know how to write. I didn't know if I needed to write a book, or I thought about writing devotionals, and I was doing devotionals for Hillsong on YouVersion on the Bible app, and I was essentially writing them and creating them and putting them out. And I said, well, what if I did it for myself? I'm at the lowest point. I feel like an absolute failure for my family. I was still married. It was gone. It was everything gone. But I remember going on a walk, and I just started to write. And I wrote, the first devotional was on Psalms 23. And it wasn't that great. But I remember one of the reasons why I didn't write was because I didn't feel good enough. I didn't feel worthy enough. I didn't feel like I was a great writer, even though my whole life people had told me, man, you're a great writer. I just didn't write. And I finally did it. I took the step. I wrote something small. I published it, and it did okay. And I just committed. I said, you know what? I'm going to write every single month a devotional. And I committed to it. And from that commitment, I ended up generating 250,000 subscribers on YouVersion of the Bible app. Many of you maybe you read them. But it was that small moment, that test that I had to go through. And I encourage you to do the same. What is it that you want to do? Is there a small test you can do? Do you need to start writing? Do you need to start creating that business plan? Do you need to start reaching out to those individuals and say, hey, is this possible? Right? Do you need to start, what is dad life? Do you need to actually put your calendar and organize it? There's so many dads that I talk to where maybe it's just that. But the real reason is this faith and this muscle underneath. And what happens is we look at the wind and we look at the waves and we sink. And then we say, Lord, where are you? When the Lord is just saying, hey, look at me. What did I tell you? Just walk with me. Follow me. Move with me. Do that. And what you're going to get is you're going to get some clarity. I want you today to do something you've never done before so you can get something you've never had before. And I want you to get consistent. You know, one of the biggest things that I had to do for a while was, as I was trying to, terrible word, get more fit. I knew exactly what I needed to do. And the problem was that every weekend I was eating junk and garbage for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And then I was thinking the 4 days of the week doing in crazy, intense workouts was going to cover it. And it's not. It might work in your 20s or maybe your 30s, but it ain't working in your 40s, 30s plus. It ain't working. You're just going to kind of more of the same. And I did that more of the same for years, decades, until I finally said enough is enough. And I got consistent. I cut out the weekend garbage. I didn't do anything more. I actually worked out less to get in the best shape of my life. Sometimes it's not you having to do more. It's just you being consistent with what you're doing, the right things, instead of the wrong things. And that's what I want you to sit with today and sit with the Lord. Read that text with Peter walking out on the water. And there's so much more that I could go through about different sort of faith journeys, but I do know this. If you don't put faith in you, in your eyes and in your ears and around you, you will not have the ability to think about faith, to grow your faith muscle. I know for me, the more that I listen to things about faith, the more that I read the scriptures about faith, the more that I read stories about faith, the more that I talk to people that are operating in faith, the more I realize that they are all doing things before they were ready, before they had the money, before they felt safe. They did them all before. And things began to open and work. And I know there's a lot of times, a lot of people out there like, oh, it didn't work for me. Well, there's also times for me where it didn't work either. And in those times, I have to look and say, well, is it aligned to what I wanted or what I was believing for? Or was it an ego desire? Was it a vanity thing that I was really doing? What was the real reason under it? Because that's what God tells us to ask for. Ask for anything in my name and I'll do it. What's according to his will for you? What is his will for your life? Do you know the will for your life? Have you considered what he has for you, the plans for you? And a lot of times, guys, the will that the Lord has for you is going to take a lot of things off the table. What do I mean by that? I mean, let's start with pause. Porn, alcohol, weed, scrolling, and sex. Are those off the table? It's hard to walk down the road of what God is asking you to do when you leave all this other junk on the table. And he may have already asked you, said, hey, stop it, knock it off. I know for me that he did, and I didn't. And I'm wondering, why am I stalled? Why am I stuck? Why is nothing working? Well, it's simple. He asked me to do something. I didn't do it. I was being rebellious. Scripture says, if you're willing and obedient, you eat the best of the land. If you're not eating the best of the land, look back and say, am I willing and am I obedient? And that's what I have to ask myself every single day. And faith draws you into the person that you are, the person that God's created you to be. And I want to leave you there with that. And I want to pray for you before we go. And I believe that you're going to have something that you've never had before. I believe you're going to sit with the Lord and think about something differently. I believe as you write out what you want, what you're seeing, what's in your heart, what God has for you, get clear, get quiet, take time, take hours, dream, draw, build. Your life is going to change, dude. Lord, I thank you for these guys that are listening, for this day, for this Sabbath, for this Sunday. It says you draw near to us when we draw near to you. I'm just asking these guys to draw near to you and that they do something they've never done before. I know there's somebody listening that is probably saying, I'd love to have that. I don't know how. And Lord, I just ask that is his prayer and that you just walk in on that prayer. It doesn't have to be a big, long prayer. It's just as simple as that. Lord, show them. If those of you that are listening now or praying, I'll pause. If you're asking something to the Lord, just ask him, man. He's not trying to trick you. And so, hey, Lord, I thank you for these guys and that they're blessed and that they love your word. They meditate on it day and night. I know there's some guys in here that are looking to really level their life up, and I just ask you that they see things differently. See things differently, and it changes what they're looking at. Bless them and keep them. Your face shines on them. You give them peace. That's the table this week, guys. I thank you for it. If it's been helpful, share it with another dad, another guy who's going through it. If you have questions, comments, drop them in there. If you're not following us on Divorced Dads of America, get in it. If you're not in our school community, get in it. If you're a business owner, you're executive, you're looking to get a mentorship accountability for the next 60 to 90 days to accelerate your life like you never had before, you can apply. There's a button in there for that. We'll see if it's a fit. I love you guys. I pray for you every day. See you in the next one. God bless you.